So my story's different, and some of you might be tempted not to believe it, but as real as I'm standing here, it happened. And I want you guys to be blessed with what happened to me. On August 17th, 2019, I was driving home from Michigan. I started to feel very nauseous. I was really upset to my stomach. Sunday was awful. I thought I had the worst stomach flu that I could even imagine. I started to run a fever. Each time I took my temperature, it would get higher. It started out at 99.9. Monday it was 101. By Tuesday morning, I was almost at 103. I called Ron at work. I said, this flu should be better, but I'm worse than it when it started. We discussed options. Should I go to the doctors, urgent care, or to the ER? Well, as a nurse, I did not want to go to the ER. You don't go to the ER unless it's truly necessary. But thank the Lord that I kneeled and prayed. And I asked God, what should I do? When I finished praying, I told Ron, I'm going to the ER. He said, are you sure? It's a $350 deductible. And I headed to the ER. This was Tuesday morning. They ran a lot of tests, and they sent me home with some pill form of an antibiotic. One of the tests they drew was called a set of blood cultures. This tests for bacteria in your bloodstream. I received a call from the ER. It said, you need to come back right now. Your blood cultures are positive. This meant that I had bacteria in my bloodstream. I was scared. Having bacteria in your bloodstream is very serious. That infected blood was running all the way through my heart, my kidneys, my brain, and my lungs. I called Ron. I said, I'm going to the hospital, and I think I'm going to get admitted. I needed IV antibiotics to fight this infection. I did what anybody else would do at this time. I Googled the internet. That's what you do when something's wrong. If I didn't get IV antibiotics fast, I could go septic, and it held a high risk of death. I knew more than anything else right now, I needed God's healing. I was admitted to Kettering on Wednesday morning. Now, I tried to be cheerful, and I tried to be pleasant. I wanted to show God as much as I could. Plus, I work at that hospital, and the last thing I wanted to do is write something nasty about me in my chart. It can be hard to be in the hospital, isolated from your family. Night came, and everybody left. The night nurse came in, and she told me in passing, they found salmonella in your stool. And then she left. I started Googling the internet. My anxiety level was super high. My mind was racing. If salmonella was in my stool and my colon, then that's what was running around in my bloodstream. Everything that I read on the internet put me in a frozen state of fear. My heart was pounding. Though this can create pockets of pus and throw them on a heart valve, your spine, your kidneys. Death possible, it said. Septic, shock. 6 to 8 weeks of IV antibiotics. I felt the deepest darkness settle over me. Thoughts were coming hard and fast. You could die in here. You could be sick for a very long time. I started to pray. Now, some of this prayer was out loud, and some of it was in my mind. But I pleaded with God as I never have before in my whole life. I was crying out to him. I said, God, please lift this darkness and this fear and bring me your peace and your healing. Let me feel your presence so that I know you're here. Because if you're here, everything will be okay. This lasted for a very long time. Not one bit of peace came. I started repeating scriptures. Nothing brought relief. All I could feel was total dread and fear. I remember saying, God, why are you ignoring me? I prayed that he would give me an experience with him that was beyond anything that I've ever experienced. I prayed that he would use this time to truly bring me into his presence. I pressed harder, and even though I didn't hear him speak to me, I continued to pray. I refused to give up. I refused to back down, and I refused to stop praying. I knew there was one God, one healer, and he's the one that I needed to press my situation with. This ugly feeling continued, and it was awful. I wanted it gone. I was desperate for God and his peace. Now, what happened next is not easy to describe. My eyes were closed, and I was still praying. I thought maybe I was dreaming, but I was hearing the noises from my IV pump go off. I saw a window open up in my mind, a large space. I felt a presence in that room. I couldn't see the face, but I knew that I wasn't alone in that room. I knew it was God. I was totally terrified, as you can imagine, but I felt like I was being given an opportunity to press my case before him. And I asked him, can you imagine what would be the first thing you'd say to God? I said, why are you ignoring me? Why didn't you give me any peace when I needed it so badly? At first, nothing was said. I started to see photographs put in front of my face. I said, what are these? No answer. Every photograph in color that was put in front of me was a scene of my life. I didn't need an explanation. I knew the meaning of each picture. It was something I had said, something that I had done. Now, I will tell you that one of the photographs had a scene, and I thought to myself, how could I have been in the wrong in that situation when I didn't even say anything? But the God who reads all thoughts and all motives and knows all things allowed me to see what my motive was in that situation, and I cried. I was seeing myself the way that God sees me. I confessed every single thing that he brought to my mind. This was extremely painful. I was sobbing. I had dishonored his character, and I had let him down. The one person who loved me enough to send his son to die for me, I had hurt. A voice began to speak to me very clearly. He told me some very personal things. I told him how sorry I was for hurting him. I was a broken person. Now, several times, I wanted to leave this space, this room that we were in. I was afraid of what he would show me next. He said to me, Faith, you could go whenever you want to. If this is too painful for you, you can leave. And I said to him, I said, God, you're the one and only God. There is nowhere else for me to go. I would rather be the mercy in the hands of you who love me than of the evil one. I'm not going to share with you everything that he said because I don't think it would benefit you. But I will tell you this. He addressed pride, selfishness, etc. This was a time of rebuke, house cleaning, confession, and a total breaking down of self. I said to God at one point, why are you doing this? Am I going to die? That's what came to my mind. Am I going to die here? Are you preparing me to die? I know that you love me. You wouldn't be doing this if you didn't want to take the time to help me be right with you. Now, I honestly had no idea that things were not right between God and I. I come to this church every week. I pray and I read my Bible. But let me tell you that Satan is subtle. Self is desperately wicked and deceitful. I had been letting my prayer time and my reading time get shorter. I got distracted with my girls, my work, my life, and other worldly things. And I will tell you some things that he told me. He said to me, time is short. He said, we need to all be free of sin. He told me that he would heal me, but it wasn't because of my prayers. He told me he was going to heal me because of the prayers of a friend. He told me that he had the right to take my life from me or give it back. He didn't cause my sickness, but he allowed it to happen because he wanted my full attention. Now, I promise you, he had my full attention. It is very clear to me, God is not pleased with lukewarm, half-hearted relationship with him. He doesn't take to insincere prayers or repeated ones. I want to tell you the good news. I finally did feel his peace. Joy came over me like I honestly cannot describe to you. I thanked God for healing me. I thanked him for answering the prayers of my friends, and I thanked him for forgiving me even when I didn't deserve his mercy. This peace did not come until after moments of confession and brokenness. He started to show me things. At one point, he showed me a glass. He said, "This glass is you." It needed to be cleaned and emptied of self. Then I saw a pitcher with water in it. He says, "I'm going to pour my Holy Spirit into this glass until it's overflowing." Once this glass is full, he told me to look through the glass. He says, once you look through this glass and people look through it, they won't see you anymore. They're going to see me. Amen. Now, please know that I am not a special person. I am a big sinner that God showed mercy to. He explained to me that he was going to be doing this same process in the lives of many of his people. He said, any one of you that are willing to submit to him, he would clean up your glass and fill you with his Holy Spirit. He wants to raise up, and I'm using his words here, an army. I wrote it down because I didn't want to forget that he said it. He said, "I'm raising up an army of clean vessels who will perfectly reflect me."